Greetings and welcome back to the Sihtetorwi dimension. We've got another one here for you, so sit back and relax and enjoy. I've always been fascinated with the moon. I'm not entirely sure why, but it might have something to do with the fact that I've never seen it. It's been at least 100 years since the original moon was wiped from the sky by a meteor, so the concept of seeing it would really have been breathtaking. Don't be confused. We still have a moon. You need one for tides and such. It's man-made, and clearly shows the lack of imagination that one would have trying to make a replica of the moon. No, for me the romance of seeing the real moon would have been something spectacular. So that's why when suddenly there was a much smaller replica of the moon, floating about 150 meters above my house, unmoving for 2 weeks, I was a little curious. To be honest, I didn't notice it for the first few days. One day, children were loitering on my lawn, staring up at the sky and chatting amongst themselves. I thought they were doing some weird new fad. Creep out the weird writer that hardly leaves his home, something like that. After telling them to leave, my neighbor then asked if I had looked at the sky above my house recently. I followed his gaze, and lo and behold, there was the moon. From then on, that moon took up most of my attention. I kept watching it to see if it would move or go anywhere, but it never did. It just stayed that constant height above my house. At one point I attempted to throw a rock at it, but it didn't do much. Just bounced off, flew over the neighbor's fence, and hit their dog, which led to an awkward conversation about throwing rocks at the neighborhood watch meeting. At about the 3-week mark, I'd finally gotten sick of seeing it above my house, and decided to do something about it. I asked a friend of mine who worked at the fire department if he could bring a truck over. He was confused at first, but after I explained the situation, he agreed on the basis of seeing it for himself, and we arranged for him to come over the following day. When he arrived, I went out to help him set up the ladder. It was quite finicky to get in place, but when it was leaning against the orb itself, we made sure it was stable, and I asked him to keep watch as I climbed. Climbing was perilous, but I had confidence that at least getting near it might give me some answer as to why it was there, or at the very least what it was. Maybe I could even persuade it to move or pull it down and use it as a lawn ornament, at least until the homeowners association demanded I got rid of it. As I got near, I could clearly make out all the craters and divots. It was a very detailed copy, despite only being slightly taller than me. I marveled for a moment as I studied it. It wasn't the real moon, but it was accurate enough that I didn't care. After a few minutes, my friend shouted up at me, asking if I thought it could be moved. That brought me out of my daze, and I shouted back that I'd try. I reared back and prepared a good but safe shove. As my hands made contact, they went straight in with no resistance, and my momentum carried me through. There was darkness for a brief moment, and then an intense light all around me. A cacophony of noises came from all sides, drowning out all thought. It felt like eons had passed since I'd seen or heard anything. Then the noises became more distinct, and out of the light a shape appeared. It made a sound towards me, one which I couldn't understand. I inquired as to what it wanted, and as my eyes and ears adjusted, I could just about make out its tones. As the light faded to a normal level, I could see that I was on a stage, and the shadow faded into a humanoid creature. With green skin and bulbous eyes, and a voice like the smooth velvet of a radio announcer, it spoke. "Hello, human! You are the next contestant on How Many Floors?" Dumbfounded, I stood in silence, mouth agape. Again the creature spoke. "Are you ready to get floorbulated?" Finally I snapped back and inquired as to what in the world was happening and why there was a moon above my house. "You're on the galaxy's hottest game show, and as for the moon, that's how we get contestants. Speaking of which, you took long enough. Now let's get florbin'!" Needless to say, I lost on How Many Florbs. I don't even know what a florb is, but as a consolation prize, they gave me a tiny replica of the moon. I keep it on my mantle as a talking point. My friend from the fire department comes over every now and then to look at it, and we reminisce about the time that I lost on the galaxy's most popular game show. Not that I'm bitter. I do so hope you enjoyed our time together. I know that I do. Come back any time.